This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
A cargo of 1.033 million barrels of Iranian crude oil landed on U.S. shores in March. Data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA, showed the second shipment of Iranian oil to be imported into the United States since 1991. The cargo was registered in EIA data released late last week for the month following the seizure by U.S. authorities of the Liberian-flagged tanker Achilles, which was transporting Iranian crude. The EIA gave no other details on the Iranian cargo, and the agency could not be reached for comment outside of U.S. office hours. Monday is a holiday in the United States.
Oil prices firmed on Monday, with Brent trading near $70 a barrel, underpinned by the bright outlook for fuel demand growth in the next quarter, while investors look to head to the OPEC Plus meeting this week to see how producers will respond. Brent crude futures rose 98 cents, or 1.5%, to $69.70 a barrel by 13:53 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $67.26 a barrel, up 94 cents, or 1.4%. U.S. and UK markets are closed on Monday due to public holidays. Both contracts are on track for a second monthly gain as analysts expect oil demand growth to outstrip supply despite the possible return of Iranian crude and condensate exports.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
OPEC Plus is likely to stick to the existing pace of gradually easing oil supply curbs at a meeting on Tuesday, OPEC sources said, as producers balance expectations of a recovery in demand against a possible increase in Iranian supply. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, known as OPEC Plus, decided in April to return 2.1 million barrels per day, BPD, of supply to the market from May to July, as it anticipated global demand would rise despite surging coronavirus cases in India. Since that decision, oil has extended this year's rally and has gained more than 30% so far in 2021 towards $70 a barrel. But the prospect of higher Iranian output as talks on reviving its nuclear deal make progress has limited the upside.
U.S. energy firms added oil and natural gas rigs for a fifth week in a row, leading to a 10th monthly increase in May, as crude prices head to their highest since 2018. The oil and gas rig count, an early indicator of future output, rose 2 to 457 in the week to May 28, its highest since April 2020, energy services firm Baker Hughes Co. said in its closely followed report on Friday. The total rig count was up 156 rigs, or 52%, over this time last year. It was also up 87% since falling to a record low of 244 in August 2020. According to Baker Hughes data going back to 1940. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China's steel mills have seen their ability to make profits wiped away this month, with product prices having fallen harder than raw material prices after the government stepped up inspections and controls to tame market enthusiasm. Chinese steel and iron ore prices had surged to all-time highs on May 12, fueled by a post-pandemic economic recovery, and easing in global liquidity as well as speculative buying, but have since pulled back. The most traded construction rebar and hot-rolled coil contracts on China's Shanghai Futures Exchange have since plunged some 18% from their peaks, giving up all their gains from the past 2 months. They have lost 6.8% and 5.9% during May respectively.
China plans to strengthen controls in industries such as steel and aluminium which involve high energy use and produce high emissions, in an effort to promote low-carbon developments, the Environment Ministry said on Monday. After several decades of breakneck industrial expansion, China has now vowed to start cutting carbon emissions before 2030 and become carbon neutral by 2060. In pursuit of that goal, it has already urged some regions to tighten energy efficiency controls. In guidelines sent to local environment regulators, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment, ME, urged local governments to regard environment quality as a bottom line, particularly if polluting projects are being expanded or relocated into their localities.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The World Trade Organization, WTO, agreed to a request from Kuala Lumpur to establish a panel examining a European Union law that restricts the use of palm oil-based biofuels, Malaysia's government and a Geneva-based trade source said on Monday. Under the EU's Renewable Energy Directive, palm oil-based fuels are to be phased out by 2030, since palm oil has been classified by the bloc as resulting in excessive deforestation and can no longer be considered a renewable transport fuel. Palm oil producers say some EU member states have started to phase it out ahead of the deadline.
Finally, we have the most recent news on the financial market. Friday's jobs report is shaping up to be a pivotal data release for the Federal Reserve as it charts a plan for ending the easy money policies that have propped up the economy and markets for more than a year. The answers will help determine when the Fed begins scaling back its large bond buying programs and how it thinks about future interest rate increases. Policymakers project a rapid recovery in the labor market this spring and summer, accompanied by moderate inflation. Such a scenario would allow the Fed to tighten monetary policy gradually and predictably, officials hope. But the path is treacherous. The mere discussion of pulling back easy money in 2013 led to turbulence in bond markets known as the taper tantrum.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.